Well, it wasn't even a week ago when the Minnesota Timberwolves were in complete and total control of this series, coming off of a 26-point curb stomping of the defending world champion Denver Nuggets to put them in an 0-2 hole on the way to Minnesota for games 3 and 4. And the entire planet, including yours truly, completely wrote the Nuggets off. And you could almost hear the collective sigh of relief coming from the horde of Jokic-hating stooges in the mass media.
Most valuable player in the league, that's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
He's the worst MVP winner in the last 40 years.
Yet here we are, 6 days later, and it is officially a brand new series, following a second consecutive road win now for Denver. And the equation here has been pretty simple these last 2 games for the Denver Nuggets. Make their three-pointers. They shot just 36% in games 1 and 2 versus 47% in games 3 and 4. Have the bench show up, last night specifically. And lastly, have Jamal Murray pull his head out of his ass these last 2 games. He entered game 3 averaging just 12.5 points on 28% shooting in games 1 and 2, and somehow, some way, he looks much healthier, much more engaged, and most importantly, was actually making his shots in games 3 and 4. He averaged 21.5 points on 50% shooting in these last 2 road games. Michael Porter Jr. was great in game 3. While Aaron Gordon was great last night, providing a viable third option. Like I said, pretty simple stuff. Just change literally everything from games 1 and 2 to games 3 and 4. And it most certainly did change for the Nuggets. So too has everything changed for the Minnesota Timberwolves, who were rolling in games 1 and 2, and a team boasting this year's Defensive Player of the Year and Sixth Man of the Year, led by 2 All-Stars, looked to have the Nuggets substantially outgunned. But essentially their entire team no-showed last night and completely squandered yet another absurd performance by rising megastar Anthony Edwards, who continues to shock and amaze with the level of maturity and dominance he displays at still just the age of 22. But his 44 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists on 16 of 25 from the field and 5 of 8 from 3 just wasn't enough to will the T-Wolves back in this game amid the bummish performances by his supporting cast. And Edwards, for what it's worth, knows what it is.
I mean, they got the best player in the world, so, it's hard to beat that.
The Nuggets do have the best player on the planet after all, the guy who was just announced as this year's MVP for the 3rd time now in the last 4 seasons. And Jokic was instrumental down the stretch in securing this game, making seemingly every single play the defending champs needed in the 4th quarter, scoring 16 of his 35 points in the final stanza to get the Nuggets home in this game. And while the Wolves' league best defense by and large has been excellent all series long, holding Jokic well below his season shooting splits, he has still been predictably excellent, averaging 27 points per game, 11 rebounds, and 8 assists on 50% from the field in these first 4 games of a series he was allegedly being exposed in. And while Edwards has shown deference to Jokic, calling him the best, and he ain't wrong, the 3-time league MVP is the best. But Edwards, despite being still 3 months away from his 23rd birthday, has also arrived completely in these playoffs. At this point, we know what to expect from the 2 alphas in this series. The supporting casts seem destined to decide it. And as the series shifts back to Denver, now just a best of 3, the Nuggets look to add to what could be a historic run over these last 2 seasons. Overall, teams that fall behind 2-0 in a series at any stage of the NBA playoffs are just 33 and 421, a winning percentage of just 7%. But things looked far bleaker for the Nuggets, as their 0-2 hole came by losing both games at home, and only 5 teams in NBA history, dating back to 1960, have overcome such a deficit. And it may sound cliche, and while this series is far from over, it is a series now, something practically everyone doubted it could become less than a week ago. But yeah, here comes that cliche. The Nuggets are showing the will, the desire, the, yes, I'm going to say it here, heart of a champion. And of course, as we all know,
don't ever underestimate the heart of a champion.
Thanks, Rudy. The Nuggets are showing the signature character we haven't seen in what seems like a very long time. All of this while Anthony Edwards continues to flash brilliance in a way that also seems to have been missing for a while now. Ultimately, whoever ends up winning this series, we are the real winners, because this series looks as if it might just turn out to be what we were all expecting from the jump. And these NBA playoffs in general have been a rare breath of fresh air that hopefully is just the beginning of what is to come in this new era of NBA basketball.